Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my Oklahoma State football predictions for the 2020 college football season. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to your channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. I do have a subscriber goal of 500 subscribers, which I'd love to hit by August 29th. So go ahead and hit that subscriber button if you're new to the channel. You will not regret it. So Oklahoma State last year, they went. I want to say they went 8-4 last year. I forget if they won their bowl game or not. I think they did win their bowl game. So I think they had a 9-win season last year, if I'm not mistaken. My memory's kind of jogging me a little bit. But this year, I am very high on Oklahoma State. I don't think, if you've been watching this channel, probably already know that. I've said that several times on this channel that I am very high on Oklahoma State. But I do not think they're college football playoff contenders, but I think they're New Year's Six Bowl contenders, definitely. I think this team can get into a New Year's Six Bowl. Let's see if I have them getting into a New Year's Six Bowl. So let's look at what I like about this team. Mike Gundy. Mike Gundy is a top 25 head coach. The guy knows offense. He always has Oklahoma very consistent around a 7, 8, 9 win mark. So I really think that Mike Gundy is a very good coach, and I think he's the main reason why Oklahoma State usually has a lot of success. The offense. Listen, you have a returning quarterback, a star wideout, and then Chuba Hubbard at running back. Usually, you don't have a really good running back there at Oklahoma State. But guess what? This year, you're doing Chuba Hubbard. I think he's a top 5 running back in the country, and I expect him to be in a lot of offensive packages this year under Mike Gundy's offense. The one thing I do not like about this team is the defense. That always seems to be the big problem with Oklahoma State is the defense. They don't really play defense there. They really actually don't really even care about defense there. So overall, that is the one thing I do not like about Oklahoma State going into this year. The one thing am very worried about, the defense. Okay, 3 toughest games. Oklahoma, Texas, TCU. Oklahoma, Texas, I really don't think needs any explanation. Oklahoma, your in-state rival. You're on the road for that game. Last year, you lost them 34-16, I want to say, something like that. So you're on the road against them, and I'll get into that game more in a second. Texas, final game of the season. It's a Friday game. It is very possible that game is for a spot in the Big 12 championship game. So Texas, to me, that's your second toughest game. And then TCU. It was between TCU, Kansas State, Iowa State, Baylor, kind of that group. Because I do think Oklahoma State is a tier above that group of teams that are going to probably be making bowl games in the Oklahoma State, in the Big 12. Excuse me, not in the Oklahoma State, in the Big 12. But I went with TCU because I can never count out Gary Patterson. That's a coach I would never count out on anything. So that's why I put him down, and you also get them on the road. Your 3 easiest games: Western Illinois, Kansas, Tulsa. I don't know what Western Illinois is. It's an FCS opponent. Never actually heard of them before, so that's going to be probably your easiest game of the season. Kansas, worst team in the Big 12. All they have really going for them is Les Miles. I really don't expect much from them this year. I know you guys get them on the road, but that's even then I really don't really expect much from them. And then Tulsa. Tulsa is the one team in the American that I put their coach in the hot seat. They're probably one of the worst teams in the American, so I put them as your 3rd easiest game. Your best case and worst case scenario. Your best case scenario is 11-1. I do think you lose a game this year, no matter what. I just still, I think you lose at least one game in the Big 12. Honestly, we'll see which game that is. I think your worst case scenario is 8-4. Oklahoma State has a tendency to lose to a team or two that they probably should not lose to, or they'll lose some 50-50 games. And that could lead to 8-4 records. So I think this team definitely wins 8 games this year, but I think the ceiling is 11-1. I just don't see. This doesn't feel like an undefeated team to me. I do not see this team going undefeated. So let's look at the schedule. Schedule right here in front of you. Let's kick it off with Week 1, a Thursday night game, and Week 1 at home. against Oregon State. Last year when you guys faced against this team, you guys beat them by three possessions. It might have been a 16-point game, so two possessions. It was kind of a shootout, but there was no doubt that Oklahoma State was going to win that game. And I think it's the same thing this year. I think it turns into a shootout, but there's no doubt that Oklahoma State wins the game. I expect you guys to win this game by about 2 to 3 touchdowns. Oregon State, they're a lot better than what they were a few years ago. They really turned the corner last year, but at the same time, the game's at home. Oklahoma State, I just think it's the much better team here. Give me the Cowboys in this one. Next game, Tulsa. Tulsa at home, win. I do think you guys beat Tulsa very easy. I know some people will look at, oh, well, they had Central Michigan and they lost to Central Michigan. First of all, they should have not lost that Central Michigan game. They got screwed over in that. But overall, I do think you guys beat Tulsa very easily. I think this game's a blowout. Next game, Western Illinois. Win. I think you guys win this game very easily as well. Probably bigger than the Tulsa game. I expect the third string guys to be in this game. Then you get your bye week. Your bye week comes right before all your Big 12 games. I do not know if I like that. I'm not getting your bye week all before the Big 12 games, or instead maybe get your bye week in between some of your Big 12 games. But you get your bye week in week 4, and then you go on the road against TCU. I do think TCU went 5-7 last year. I do think TCU will be better this year. I really do. Zach Evans, I think, will play right away for them. But at the end of the day, I know the game's in TCU, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma State. This is kind of just a bit of the benefit of the doubt. You guys are coming off a bye week. I do think this game is going to be a bit closer than the Oklahoma State fan wants it to be. I think it's probably a 7 to 10 point game, but at the end, I gotta go Oklahoma State here. I just think they're the better team. Okay, next game, Iowa State. Iowa State is one of those teams. They are a contender for the Big 12 championship game. A lot of people have this team in their top 25. Same thing with Oklahoma State. Everybody has Oklahoma State in the top 25, but a lot of people have Iowa State in the top 25. We'll see if Iowa State is in my top 25 on August 1st when the McD Sports 4 top 25 gets released. I went back and forth with this one because I can see Oklahoma State losing this one. They tend to lose a game or two every year that they're not really supposed to lose. But I gave Oklahoma State the benefit of the doubt on this one. I said you guys will win this game. I just feel like Oklahoma State, they're one of those teams that I just feel like they're a top 15 team. I think Iowa State is more of just like a top 25 team more than anything. So it's at home. I think it's a one-possession game, but Oklahoma State comes out on top. Okay, next game at Kansas. Win. You guys will beat Kansas very easily. I do not see this game actually really being close. I think you guys beat the Jayhawks very easily. The game, I think, will be over by halftime at worst for Oklahoma State. Next game at Oklahoma. Bellingham right here. Listen, this game is a really big game, I think, in the Big 12 this year. If you watch my Oklahoma football prediction video, both teams are undefeated going into this one. I think this is going to be a huge matchup. I went back and forth with this one. And first of all, before I continue, this game should be the last week of the season. I don't know what the Big 12 is doing, but this game should be the last game of the season. I don't know why this game's in the middle of October, or it might be late October at this point in week 8. But listen, it's in Norman. If you watch Oklahoma football prediction video, you already know who I have. I gave you guys a loss here. I just think Oklahoma is the better team. That's what it comes down to. I do think this game is going to be a pretty close game. But at the end, I mean, Mike Gundy's only beat Oklahoma 3 times since he's been there in 2005. That's the one thing I don't like about Mike Gundy. He does not beat his rival consistently. And I think he's going to lose to them again this year. Last year, I thought you guys actually had a legit shot beating them. Even though I think I picked Oklahoma to get the win there at the end. But this year, the game's in Norman. I mean, I just feel like you guys I think the offense can hang with them, but I just feel like that defense is going to slip up a few times and give you a loss there. So I got you guys getting your first loss of the season on the road against Oklahoma. Next game, Texas Tech at home. Texas Tech is a team. They're kind of like Oklahoma State. They're like the poor man's version of Oklahoma State. They have a decent offense every year, at least, or actually a pretty good offense every year. But the defense is just pitiful. The game's at home for you guys in Stillwater. I think you guys will get the win there, bounce back win. I do think you guys could go ahead and probably win that game by 3-4 touchdowns. Next game at Baylor. This is going to be a tough game here. Baylor's a team. I do think they take a step back, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to win more than like 9 games, really. Um, I mean, this is a really tough pick right here. I'm going to give Oklahoma State the benefit of the doubt and say they come away with a narrow win. This game will be a one-possession game either way. I think this game's going to be a great game. Baylor could be in the top 25 in this one, but I do think at the end Oklahoma State gets the win here. 3 more games left. West Virginia at home. I do think you guys beat West Virginia. West Virginia is one of those teams I'm not really high on this year. I do think they might even take a step back from last year. Last year they went 5-7. I think they might take a step back, honestly. I just really feel like Oklahoma State would take care of business in this one against West Virginia. Probably win this game by 3-4 touchdowns, honestly. Okay, next game at Kansas State. Oklahoma State better be careful against Kansas State. Kansas State, I think, has a really good coaching staff. I don't think the talent is completely there, but they have a really good coaching staff. The game is in Manhattan. It's in Kansas State. I went back and forth with this one, and it comes down to this. Oklahoma State, I think, is going to lose either on the road against Baylor or on the road against Kansas State. I have you guys being Baylor. You guys are going to lose to Kansas State for the purposes of this video. I do think Kansas State, I do think Oklahoma State is the better team, but once again, Oklahoma State, they're one of those teams that are going to lose to a team or two every year that they probably should not lose to. And I think this is the game that they probably lose to a team they're probably not supposed to lose to. And Kansas State might be a top 25 team. They're very well coached. It's the North Dakota State coaching staff. And remember, Kansas State last year, Oklahoma came in and they took an L against Kansas State. So I do think Oklahoma State goes ahead and loses that game against Kansas State. And then the final game of the season against Texas. This game could very well be for a spot in the Big 12 championship game. I went back and forth with this one. The game is in Stillwater. I do think Texas has the better talent. I think Oklahoma State has the better coaching staff. I think this game's going to come down to coaching. I think Oklahoma State wins this game. Texas is a top 25 team, probably even a top 20 team, but at the same time, I just feel like Oklahoma State, the game being in Stillwater with everything on the line, I think Mike Gundy will have the guys ready, and I think Oklahoma State will go ahead and win this game. I do think it's a one-possession game either way. I think it's going to be a great game. This is also a Friday game, by the way, the day after Thanksgiving. So I forgot to say that at the beginning, but this is also a Friday game on Thanksgiving. But overall, give me Oklahoma State to get the win there. So if you count up all the wins and losses, I do have the Oklahoma State Cowboys going 10-2 with a 7-2 conference record. 10-2 with a 7-2 conference record. They will have the tiebreakers over Iowa State and Texas. They will not have the tie, and Baylor. They have the tiebreaker against them as well, according to my predictions. They will not have the tiebreaker against Kansas State, however. And if you already watched the Oklahoma football prediction video, you already know that Oklahoma has a better record than 7-2 in the Big 12 championship game, which means that probably, according to my predictions, Oklahoma is going to be at least first place in the Big 12 championship game with the highest record. But that's my prediction for Oklahoma State. Comment down below. I always like hearing from y'all. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. And this is McD the Beast signing off.